What's up, YouTube? Mr. LMSC here, and today our minds have been blown by crazy changes thrown into this PTR. Immunities are gone from the game, essentially. We're going to dive into everything we know about these charms. I've had the other video where we just kind of read it and got the announcements and all this. But we're going to dive into everything that we know, and I'll go ahead and show you really quick. This is what we have. We have a fire immune removal. Monster fire immunity is sundered, meaning fire immunity no longer exists while I have this charm. And then, of course, I have the minus fire res. But you can see I can overstack my own fire res by just using charms, and it doesn't even, like, matter, right? Like, I'm stacked up on fire immune. So it doesn't even matter. I can beyond stack it. So some people are saying, does it remove from your like maximum, right? Where you can only have a 0 max now or something. No, it does not. That'd be great, Warren. Yeah. So just absolutely crazy right now because, like I said, you can go to a place where there are fire immune monsters. And you can see now they no longer are fire immune. They just are minion mobs, whatever, and they will take fire damage, which is crazy. But hydras don't hit them. They don't take hydra damage currently. So let's talk about everything that we know about these characters and everything that we have here and all that stuff. Here are the current things. Number one. The GC is level 75 required, and it only drops from the terror zones. So this is not going to be something that's going to affect your start of the game character. You're not going to walk out, go in the Den of Evil, find this charm, and all of a sudden your character can play through the game as a character that's just, oh, I'm a fire source, and I don't have to worry about immunities. None of that is going to change. If you are playing through this game, you are still going to have everything playing through this game still exactly as it was before. And again, even if somebody gives you this charm, you have to be level 75 to use it. So again, if you are playing through this game, this will not change that. This doesn't change a guided playthrough. This doesn't change any of that stuff. All of that is going to be the same. This is going to affect your end game characters when you have your beefed up fire sorceress and you go, but now she can't fight in so many areas. Now she possibly can. We do not know the rarity of these drops, right? So we do not know what the rarity of these drops is. That was a pretty good straight line for just back and forth underlining. Are they jaw runes? Are they Ort runes? Are they the rarity of Agids? Are they the rarity of Azad or Ethereals? Right? We don't know. And we do know they only drop in terror zones as well, which means the initial terror zones to get these charms may have immunities that won't be great for you. So it's going to kind of take a little bit of time, it feels like, right? Like, okay, I have a fire source. This isn't a good area for fire sources. Oh, this one is. Let me go in. Am I going to find it? I don't know. You know, all of that. So it feels like these will take a little bit to get there. But as it's set up right now, people are saying it's slightly more rare than Geeds. But current numbers could be extremely inaccurate, so who knows? And again, how many times do you find a Geeds? I mean, that can take some time still, right? It appears the minus res effects, or all minus res effects are after Sunder and have full effect. This means Cold Mastery, Infinity, Low Res, etc. are insane. And this is something I want to kind of explain to people. So currently the way that it works, let's say you have a 220% lightning resist monster. And we can just say 120, right? It's 220 because it's from the negative up, blah, blah, blah. But we'll just say 120 for people's minds. Currently, if you are trying to break this immunity, you can only break this with low resist or conviction. from Infinity or from a Paladin, whatever it is. That's all. Nothing else will break it. So all of that minus res you have from your facets and all that stuff mean nothing until this is broken. And to break it, it is a 1/5 penalty, meaning you have to have 100% minus 100% to bring this down to 100%, because it'll only actually drop at 20%. So if I have 75%, minus 75% from like my conviction, does minus 75%, there's percent, lightning, or just from conviction, because that can break it, it's actually only going to be minus 15%, which would only bring this to 105, so this monster would stay immune, right? This would be a lightning immune monster. They would stay immune. So you would need over 100% to actually break the immunity of this lightning res monster, right? So again, things like Infinity and stuff, when it happens for a lightning immune monster, are going to just be breaking, and that's why, you know, it just breaks it, and it's not as powerful. It's still very powerful because it would break the immunity, but it's not getting that minus 75 off the 120 or anything like that, right? Now, though, this charm automatically drops it down to 95%. This is after charm. No matter what it was, this could have been 240% lightning resist. And it would still bring it down to 95%. Or, like those poison doors, I think are like 1,000% poison immune. Poison resist, something like that. That will now be brought down to 95%. Which is crazy. Because then Infinity is now going to do the full 75%. That's not how much Infinity does. What is Infinity's minus 67? Does that sound right? 87? 55? No, 87 is what it is, right? Because it's a level 12 conviction aura. 69? No, that's just, okay, you're just memeing. So 85% is a level 12. So it is now going to take the full 85% off of this, which means after Infinity, a monster will have 10% immunity now, or 10% resistances, purely after Infinity. And this is on a monster that would have been immune, like a cold immune monster or a fire immune monster, now has 10% immunity instead of something like 85, 90. Then you have each of your facets from that. Then you have whatever, you know, items that you have. You've got Flickering Flame. That's minus 15%. You've got a Paladin running Conviction. So instead of the 85%, you have the minus 150%. And on top of all of it, you have Cold Mastery, which could literally just bring this down to 0%. Or, I should say, negative 100%. For like every single monster. Right? Because if we just go here, let's get our cold source. Okay. Minus 185. To enemy cold res. At current skill level 34, with no torch, with suboptimal gear, only 3 cold GCs. if you get this to minus 195, that means just having Cold Mastery plus this charm, every single monster in the game will be minus 100% cold. Which is crazy. That's crazy. Cold GCs are gonna be nasty good. I've got Nightwing and Death Fathom on. That's just added cold damage. So that just means my cold damage is more. So everybody who's saying Infinity is now worthless, it's kind of the opposite. Infinity is now insanely good. Infinity has gotten better. Cold Master's gotten better. I would recommend changing Cold Master to be plus damage instead. Just to make it so you have other ways that you go about of getting, you know, minus cold res and stuff. Because that's insane. These charms affect all monsters, not just the ones in Terror Zones. So you don't have to just be going around in the Terror Zones for it. You now have to go and actually, like, or now you can go anywhere, right? So like I said, fire builds, whatever builds, cold builds that were stuck in the ancient tunnels or stuck in the glacial trail or wherever now have everything opened up to them. Number 5, elemental characters have gone up. And physical damage builds have stayed the same, but by these going up, that kind of makes these go down in value a little bit. Because again, now elemental this just opens up so much more, right? Physical builds before had the ability to, okay, well, I'm a whirlwind barb, so I can at least go to this, you know, this area and that area, and I can jump around and do the trav and do the pit and do this and that. Whereas the elemental builds, some of them were kind of stuck more. Obviously, lightning builds always kind of had the benefit. Once they got infinity, they kind of just could do whatever they wanted. But now, every fire build, every cold build, any of those builds that get this now have the whole game open to them, which is wild. There is a charm for magic immunes. Hammerdins can now do wave 2. So small buff to Hammerdins. Boop. But overall, there weren't a lot of magic immunes anyways. It's not a huge change there. They could still do wave 2 with just a big enough holy bolt or something before, so it speeds it up a little bit for them. Yeah. And lastly, Traps minions are not affected, like we saw with the Hydras, and same for the Trapsin. I'm hoping this would be changed. Otherwise, whew, man, they just kind of destroy Trapsins and stuff, right? Again, it's like it's okay to start, and then at the end, it's like, oh, well, do you want a character that's stuck in one zone or a character that can go everywhere? So I think this does have some limits. All in all, it is a lot of change right here. This is pretty big. People want my thoughts on it, and I'm thinking a lot on it, which is why it's hard. How does the minus magic res work for the Hammerdin? It would just be minus magic res, so he'll take more damage from like bone spears and stuff like that. The negative effect on these things, of course, is they have minus resistances for it. So, for instance, this character gets minus 75 cold res when you wear this right here. So it's dropping the monster's res and your res. And every charm that you have has like that. right? It doesn't play into PvP. It has zero effect in PvP. It's only PVM. They take 3 inventory slots because they're a grand charm. Okay. It is, I feel like it's a change that's going to be loved and hated. Both. People that are more purist, people that are more along those lines, I think are going to generally be the ones that really hate it. Because it is very changing of the game. This is probably the biggest change we've seen of everything. And they've already done some changes. But this is a very large change. Now, for a lot of people, I think they're going to like it. Because there's so many. The problem is there are currently some builds already that can do all the content in the game. A lightning sorceress with infinity can do all the content in the game, right? A Hammerden can do all the content in the game. So it's like, okay, everybody, you know, the Hammerden, of course, was the always played character because it's like, well, you can take it everywhere and it's insanely strong and all of this stuff. And so for those people, I can see their thoughts, which is finally, at least now we can take other builds and also bring them around in the game. I can have a fire sorceress and not be stuck in the Stony Tomb. I can have a cold sorceress and not be stuck in the ancient tunnels. I can take these characters. I can go do the Chaos Sanctuary, because that's like a big one, right? Like the Hammerden could run the Chaos Sanctuary, but your Blizz Source kind of can, but then, okay, for Desace, you need fire. You have to let your mercenary do it. And what if Infector rolls with cold immune on? Then, okay, well, now you can't kind of do that. Or if you're fire immune, just no chance really going into the Chaos Sanctuary, or a fire sorceress or druid or whatever it was, right? There were just specific zones and waves and things like that that just kept you away from a lot of places in the game. And now, it gets you where your end game super geared up fire source isn't still blocked down to just run the Stony Tomb because you can't kill the other stuff. So it makes sense in that regard. And again, I can totally understand why it has, you know, why people would love it. Right? So that, I think, you know, I can lean almost towards that way because I really understand that the nature of that. Like I said, if we didn't have any builds that could really do all the content in the game, if infinity and lightning sources weren't kind of a thing already, or, you know, or any lightning and Javazon, whatever that had it as well, if there was, you know, Hammerden not existing exactly, like if you had kind of these characters that weren't insanely strong already, I think I would dislike it more. But now it's just kind of opening up that endgame nature, because again, it's like, okay, now your fire source can go do endgame content as well. I think the punishment for it is of minus 75 cold res, fire res, all that stuff. I think it's decent, honestly. That's like, I would have been right around that same sort of idea, you know, okay, you're knocking their immunities down, but also your immunities down. So, you know, I think that's interesting. I think you could also do some sort of, it lowers your cap on resistances. That could be interesting. You know, some stuff like that. But still, the idea of, you know, bringing down all the resistances is very interesting right there. So I think that's fine. I do like that it's required level 75. I'd be cool if they raise that even more, just to really make it an end game piece, so that it's just cool. Once your character is like really kind of, you know, stacked out, is when they get this like turn on. Yeah, like 85 or 80, you know, is when it like turns on and it's like, boom, now you can kill all the stuff in the game, because now that you're like super leveled and got all your gear and whatever stuff, you know, I think that is kind of an interesting piece. I think the big issue that I have with it currently is number 3. Bringing down the immunities first to 95 and then everything applying at 100% is going to be really strong. Number 7 is also an issue. I think they will fix number 7 personally, but this to me really is like a big piece, because it just, something like Infinity now, every single elemental character like has to run Infinity almost, except a Cold Source, I guess, because she just runs a giant Cold Mastery and doesn't need anything else. Yeah. So it'll be interesting. But I understand that this is a very big buff, which, once again, this is the part that I'm on the dislike side. All this does is buff everything. And for the power creepers, and I'm one who always says we have to be careful of power creep, this is power creeping. The nice thing is, I don't think, like, if here's our current level of Diablo 2, right? Like, this is power, and this is time. You know, power went up, then we got Enigma and all whatever stuff. And it pretty much, you know, stayed consistent. Gosh dang it. Pretty much stayed consistent over a decent amount of time. And I don't think this is really a giant power spike, because to me, when I'm looking at the power, I'm looking at what is the highest power in the game. And that it would currently be Hammerden Light Source, right? That is where we currently are at of the highest level of power. Does this boost that higher? It does a little bit, because, for instance, now Conviction on light immunes is going to do more, because first you're dropping it to a non-immune. So for the Light Source, it is going to be a boost in power. So I do think it is going to go up to there. But really, we're taking, you know, the Fire Source, the, you know, whatever, all these other characters down here, and they're all kind of raising up more towards, you know, that same level, right? So, and physical builds get left behind, yeah. So it's not power creeping in a way that the game itself is getting further in power. It's power creeping in the way that Light Source will go up a little bit, but Hammerden goes up the tiniest bit, because now he can do wave 2 and a couple things. But mainly it's powering all of the under builds. Or not all the elemental under builds.